When we think of examples of heinous crimes committed by those in power, we remember Russia, which has been stealing Ukrainian children for 2 years now, in order to somehow compensate for the lack of births caused by alcoholism and the impotence of the majority of the male population in Russia. To our horror, we recently discovered that in America, in the democratic states, children are also being stolen, but for a completely different reason. Just wait a minute. I'll tell you how they steal them from immigrants, how they take children away from those who resist communofascism. The general public doesn't know about this. This is our nightmare that has actually become a reality. I just spoke with parents whose 13-year-old child was finally and irrevocably taken away from them this Saturday. I don't have the right to mention their names, or even the gender of the child, or the child's name, because you can get jailed for that. Those are the rules here. First, they turn the child against the parents, and then they save the child from the monsters and barbarians. It seems that for refined liberal and progressive Democrats, people like us are seen and felt exactly as barbarians and utter monsters. Who knows? Maybe that's exactly what we are. The state, well, that's the government, takes children away from their parents here and, ladies and gentlemen, takes them away forever. You probably think that the parents are, well, monsters, right? They beat the children half to death, lock them up in dungeons, starve them. No, the parents were simply against giving hormones to children at a young age and preparing them for gender reassignment. They were just asking, begging to wait until adulthood. They were just asking, begging to wait until adulthood. Ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, it can actually get worse from here. All parents believe that their children are truthful, that it's not their children who buy and sometimes sell drugs, that their children are the innocent ones, and certainly not while changing their bodies to another gender. We would know, parents say, what are you talking about? We tell each other everything. It's explained that not everything is shared, even with specialized services. Several United States states, including my home state of California, all of them Democratic, are secretly working to separate children from their parents and permanently tie them to the party. Here's the key point. You can't even imagine how skillfully, every day, every hour, professionals in indoctrination work through textbooks, through teachers who are forced, and some even do it willingly, through special commissioners, psychologists in schools, and through children's books, television shows, even through popular rappers, actors, singers, movies, and television. They don't give you money unless you agree to show something they want you to show. They're working to create a rift between you and your children. The school is working, the entertainment complex for children and teenagers is working, and almost all the specialized events organized by the government and its authorities are working. When it's in power, the Democratic Party. Hooray. Huge efforts are being made to destroy relationships. In American families, only those who truly talk with their children endure. In America, there's even a saying, I don't know, a proverb, that prays together stays together. In other words, those who pray together stay together, and I think it's broader than just praying. This means regularly, deeply, and in a mature way talking with your children. Unfortunately, very few people actually do this. I want to tell you a real true story. I'll change some details. For example, I won't mention the last name. I've already explained why I knew about this nightmare story for any parents long before today, when the court made its terrible decision to take the child away from the immigrant parents forever. The reason was that the parents objected to their child undergoing gender reassignment as a teenager. It was done by the Democrats. This was already after the teenager had been given medication for a long time that suppressed their hormonal development, putting their body into a different mode of another gender. But, gentlemen, there is also a second layer. How do they persuade a child not to trust their problems to their parents? Imagine your 11-year-old, 13-year-old child says to someone, I watched television and realized on television they show everything so beautifully, so positively, and I realized that I'm just like someone there. And I realized that I'm not him, but her. I'm Sasha the girl, not Sasha the boy. The teachers immediately start calling him she. Now he goes to the girls' restroom and the girls' locker room. And you, the parents, you don't even have the right to know about this. Not that they forgot to tell you. You simply don't have the right. And everyone at school stays silent. Well, if you live in California, of course, but this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning. The school, medical system, and courts stand between the child and their parents. This is not a dystopian scenario. This is the new reality. In 2024, the governor of California, the scoundrel Gavin Newsom, signs the AB 1955 bill. Go check out the so-called Safety Act. They care about the safety of our children. I have no words. I don't want to swear. This law directly prohibits it. I want to swear, but they won't let it through. The law prohibits schools and school circles, meaning the administration, teachers, kindergartens, from informing parents that a child at school has changed their name, pronoun, or declared a different gender identity. That's what they call it. So, starting January 1, 2025, schools in California will have the legal right and obligation to hide from parents that their child has changed gender within the school system. For now, officially, it's to protect the child from possible discrimination at home. That means from the parents, from mom, dad, grandmothers, grandfathers, sisters, or even brothers, anyone. Now I'll show you how all of this was packaged for the public. Separately, there's the Senate Bill 107 law, which makes California a sanctuary for minors, a place they can run to. California, what does sanctuary mean? In another state, there's a teenage child who wants to receive gender-affirming medical care. Oh my state says that California is ready to take children under its protection. Remember, yes, we have states. These are people who come here to California for puberty blockers and hormones. Even if in their home state parents forbid it, and it's against the law, meaning the law forbids it, parents forbid it. But we come to California and don't care. We'll do whatever we want. We'll give it to you. We'll ruin your life for the rest of your life, but with joy. By coming here, we essentially remove your parents' influence over your life. They are no longer parents. They are biological donors with no rights to their children. They are required to provide for them, but they have no right to make decisions for their children. How do you like that? I'm not sure. I don't really like it. Do you still want to move to California? Do you see now why families with kids and anyone able are trying to leave? Federal officials say that California's policy of keeping secrets from parents violates basic family rights. The machine is already in motion. Ladies and gentlemen, every state has its own rules. Go and change them. Our hero, Sasha, the first step of breaking away from the family. Our hero, 13-year-old Sasha, an ordinary family in California, working parents, a mortgage, hope for a good school in a progressive neighborhood. The parents came from the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. Migrants, busy and tired, take their first steps in a new world, while communo-fascists are already at their family's doorstep. On TikTok, Reddit, and in social emotional learning classes, social emotional learning, social. Sasha has already heard many times that gender is a spectrum, and your body could have made a mistake and put you in the wrong, the wrong body. Yeah, something of yours could have made a mistake, and put you in the wrong body. What needs to be fixed is to be yourself, and you can do it. And you need to do it for your own happiness. Otherwise, you will never be happy. And those who doubt are toxic and full of distrust, even if they are your parents. Posters with pride and trans pride flags hang in the hallways, and the school psychologist, the commissioner, and the envoy of socialism talk about a safe space. I think it's a dangerous space. Yes, one day after class, Sasha, this is all true, gentlemen, walks into the counselor's office. From now on, I'll do things differently. It doesn't matter if he was a boy or girl, right? Yes, I feel like I'm not a boy, maybe I'm a girl, or on the contrary, said, I feel like I'm not a girl, maybe I'm a boy. It doesn't matter. For our case, yes, the consultant who acted according to the latest guidelines responds almost automatically. Thank you for sharing. You are very brave. Brave. That's how it's supposed to be, it says there. You have to praise. Say that you're brave. What name and pronoun do you want to use now? We can support you here at school if things are difficult at home. No questions asked. So where do these thoughts come from? What's happening in the family? Are there signs of depression, trauma, pressure, or social network influence? The main thing is to affirm and support right away. Here's the part that's often omitted, ladies and gentlemen. Social transition. A few days later, a new note appears in the teacher's online journal according to the guidelines. Use the name Sasha and the pronouns she, her. She. This is already standard procedure for the school. It started, things got moving, and teachers are clearly told that this is how it should be discussed with parents. You can't reveal the secret. It could be considered a violation of the child's rights. Yes, privacy, I don't even know how to put it, even their potentially dangerous behavior. If it's assumed that parents or classmates who don't understand see that teachers start addressing Sasha as a girl. In school records and internal files, both the name and gender are changed. He is allowed to use a neutral or female restroom. And after classes, Sasha is invited to the Gender Sexuality Alliance Club. Gender Sexuality Alliance. I don't know, yeah. There, older teenagers and activists tell stories about how conservative parents ruin their lives. A real family is the community that accepts you. The message is simple. Those who encourage you and don't ask uncomfortable questions are your real family, while parents who might disagree are potentially dangerous. The school psychologist starts meeting with Sasha regularly. The questions are structured so that any possible skepticism, anything from the parent's side, is interpreted as a problem with the parents, not as normal concern. Mom and Dad know that you want to be a girl. No, Dad is conservative, he'll explode. Sometimes the family isn't ready to accept it. It's important for you to feel safe. You don't have to share everything with them if it could hurt you. What a wonderful statement. Lie as much as you want if the truth could cause you pain, discomfort, or punishment. So everything we've been trying to develop in our children for years gets broken. And it's said that these are just your parents. They're supposed to love you. But by not accepting your new identity, they showed that they actually hate you, not love you like any normal parent would. Wait, let's figure this out. Labels like toxicity, control, and abuse get attached. Where the 10 Commandments said honor your father and mother, the new morality says set boundaries, cut off toxic ties, cut off toxic connections. Be true first and foremost to yourself and your own feelings, not to your family. The school, which should be an ally of the family, actually turns out to be a mediator in separation. The child trusts strangers more and more and their own family less and less. Gender therapist. At one of the school club meetings, Sasha is given a brochure from a local clinic that specializes in gender-affirming care for youth. The brochure promises to help you become your true self and features a supportive team of specialists. A social worker or maybe a school counselor says, "We can help you make an appointment. It's just a consultation. It's not treatment." Teenagers in California have the right to access certain types of medical care, even if their parents don't agree. The main thing is your well-being. That's what matters. And they're here in our story. Father Sasha finds out about everything by accident, through a school chat, a dropped leaflet, a brochure he happens to see. "Sasha, what kind of clinic is this? What is it? Is it her?" "Him. Why do they call you by some other name at school?" The child explodes. "Do you want me to become someone I'm not again?" He's already been convinced he isn't himself. And for the parents, it's a terrible shock. They see that a whole process has already started behind their backs, changing the name, the pronoun. At school, psychologists, clubs, initial doctor visits, all of this happened in secret under the cover of the law about the child's rights to something, the child's right to something. They go to school. Our parents demand to stop this social experiment, but the school officially responds, "We are obliged to respect the student's gender identity." If one parent is strongly against it and the other, on the contrary, supports the transition, the situation quickly goes beyond the scope of family law. Custody lawyers in California are already writing that courts consider which parent affirms the child's gender and which one denies it, and they include this in the criteria for the child's health, safety, and well-being. California Family Court. A parent says, "I'm not against it if my son is gay, but I'm against irreversible interventions at 14, at 13, at 15, and against schools and doctors doing this behind my back." On the other side, there's a lawyer who refers to experts under gender-affirming care, studies about the risk of depression and suicide, and the latest California agenda, where affirmation is the actual standard of treatment. The expert tells the court that if Sasha is denied access to gender-affirming care, we increase the risk of severe depression and suicidal behavior. Gentlemen, as a result, the court may grant the right to make medical decisions to the supportive parent, the one who said, "Well, okay," change the custody arrangement, and in extreme cases severely limit contact with the non-affirming parent if it is determined that they are harming the child's emotional well-being. But who said that this is well-being in the story that happened right next to us in California? Sasha's father stands in an empty room. A wall has already formed between them and the teenager. From medical recommendations, legal opinions, activist rhetoric, the child already hates their parents, and when he or she realizes what a terrible mistake was made, they'll hate them even more. This story is a composite portrait of how schools, medicine, and the courts interact in California today. When an 11 or a 13-year-old child, they tell him, "Maybe you were born the wrong gender," and the possibility of such a scheme is already built into the system, and it has started working, and the scheme is simple. The laws encourage keeping secrets from parents at school. Courts interpret disagreements with a gender transition as potential harm to the child. An activist infrastructure has been created that treats any identity declared by a teenager as a signal to slowly affirm and protect them. From whom? From their own family. This is Sasha from California. The real question is, how many more states, countries, and systems are ready to rewrite the role of parents so that anyone who says, "Let's not rush," automatically becomes the enemy of their own child? In a quarter of a century, 3,678 children under 18 have been transitioned from one gender to another. I strongly suspect that the lives of 3,678 children have been ruined. Trouble always starts somewhere. Over the years, a pattern of behavior has been established. Teachers are frightened. Psychologists and counselors are trained. What I told you is reality. And what politicians say or write in laws that are incomprehensible to non-specialists, there is no time to quietly step aside and watch as the happiness and future of their child are destroyed. There are several other states where the same thing is happening: New York, Washington, Oregon, Colorado, Illinois, Vermont. Time time that cannot be, time not time, time that is not, time that cannot be. But nobody cares that 100,000 children die from fentanyl in America every year. But if all this is true, then it means that the fight for a child's right to transition from one gender to another has some other meaning. I've saved the main point for the end of this segment. I've already kind of mentioned this meaning. The whole point, the whole purpose of what's happening is to destroy the morals of the citizens of the United States of America, to break up family histories, to sow distrust between friends, to make us all feel lonely, dependent, as if we need a guardian without whom our lives would be unbearable. Democrats, communists, socialists, and globalists don't need people who are confident, bound by family ties, morals, or ethics. Such people are hard to control, and all of this is done with one goal: to make it easier to control us, easier to manipulate, easier to force, easier to scare, easier to lock us in our homes. Why does this matter now? I truly feel sorry for the children and parents. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, whether you like or dislike certain actions of the current administration, whether you are thrilled or not so thrilled by what the Republican Party is doing, you must not just rush, but if you are on your deathbed, you should crawl to the polling stations and say, vote against the Democratic Party, which exists solely to destroy us, our families, our lives, our future. And they do this in order to live at our expense.